In today's episode, we have Nicki Traikos, who is a professional designer that uses Pinterest and other social media platforms to sell courses on art, calligraphy, and watercolor. You will also get to hear her journey from a physical printing business to online courses, how she finds both active and passive income streams, and some super ninja Pinterest hacks to get more people to your own online course. And now, on with the show. Welcome to the Online Course Igniter podcast, where you'll hear from successful course creators and how they were able to turn their passion into a thriving online business empire. Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking out the podcast today. I am with Nicki Traikos, who is going to tell us about her awesome course experiences. How are you doing today, Nicki?
I'm great, Jeremy. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited that you are here. Thank you for giving us your time. And I was on your site earlier, and I was looking at the courses that you have on calligraphy and some different things. And first of all, your site looks amazing.
Oh, thank you. I always feel like it's a work in progress.
Yeah. Oh, it always will be. That's for sure. But it looks absolutely beautiful. And I love when people have a strong graphic design background, because that's kind of where I come from. And so when I see a beautiful site like that, I'm like, oh, yay, this is great.
Oh, thank you for that.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started. I always like to start off and just hear where people came from in the beginning of their journey. So if you could just take a couple moments and tell us maybe what you were doing before you got into online business, and then how did you get into online business and online courses?
Sure. So it's a bit of an interesting story. My background is corporate real estate, and I've always been artistic, but a few years ago when I graduated university, and I'm talking quite a few years ago, there wasn't a lot of opportunity to follow an artistic path and to make money from it. So I was getting married, we had just bought a house, and instead of following my artistic desires, I graduated from university, fell into corporate real estate, and basically started my married life. But there's always been a yearning to express my creative artistic side. So I decided when I was trying to get pregnant with my first, I decided to enroll in a makeup course, and that allowed me to express my creativity. My canvases were people's faces, and it was an amazing experience. So I did that for about 13 years and raised my babies and really enjoyed a long creative career in makeup artistry. And then I got to the point where I was giving up a lot of my weekends. I did weddings primarily, which were early morning starts in the summer season. So I was away from home a lot when I wanted to be with my family. I did some television photography work where, again, it was long days on set. So I decided to take a bit of a sabbatical, and that's when online courses were starting to become popular. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to just follow a life where I designed how I spent my time, and I could do so with my art and creativity. And I did. I took a 6-month sabbatical from everything other than, of course, staying home and taking care of my kids. And I dove into a few online classes where I learned how to create my website and do some graphic design, and even took some art classes. So Li-Fi Design was born in 2012 with the intention of not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do with building an online business or an art business at that, but I wanted to dedicate my time and my focus on creating an income and a living from my art and doing it solely online.
Very cool. So the Li-Fi Design, when you first created that website, what kind of things were you putting on there? Was it just, were you blogging, or what kind of content were you adding to the site?
So at that time, blogging was quite popular. So thinking back 2012. And so when I started the website, I wanted it to serve two purposes: to host the blog where I could inspire others to also live a life that they designed, whether it was through creativity, self expression. And then I wanted it to host some art prints. I thought I would start with creating art prints that people could purchase sort of cheaper in cost so that they could change up their environment. I'm big on just having a home space that was really inspiring and that spoke to me. So the website served two purposes. It was a platform where I could share my voice and my story and also sell my artwork. And that's when I had more of it was an online print shop. So I printed quite a few things from home actually, where I set up greeting card printing, also wall art. I had sublimation printing machine where I printed my art on coffee mugs. So I would print, fill orders, and ship basically.
Okay, cool. So, and you were doing this all out of your house?
All out of my house. So I have a beautiful home studio that I'm very lucky to work out of. It allowed me to be at home when the kids came home from school and still allowed me to create an income and create products, which was very cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's very similar to me because I started out screen printing and I was screen printing, out of my home and doing the same thing, creating the products and sending them out. So that's really cool to hear that story.
Nice.
So,
I did the same actually. I printed on tea towels. That was a big thing. My sassy lettering, so calligraphy was something that I fell in love with a few years after. And yeah, I would screen print in my basement, and yeah, I can relate.
okay, cool. So you took some classes, you learned these skills, you got a site up, you're producing content, and then you also start printing. So how did that transition into creating your own online course?
Well, that's a good one. I realized I was spending more time at home making products and going to the post office and shipping that I thought, I really want some time and space freedom. So my husband was traveling quite a bit for work. Our kids were getting older. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to have an online business where I can work from anywhere? I just needed my laptop, maybe my sketchbook, and some art supplies. And what would that look like? So, what would I have to let go of? And what would I have to introduce into my business? So, I decided to shut down the print shop, and I have been using print on demand sites. So, I've changed the way that I create revenue from that part of my business. But then I started teaching in person workshops. So, calligraphy and lettering were getting really popular a few years ago. And I was just by chance invited to teach an in person workshop and did that for, I guess, about a year to 18 months. And it burnt me out. I was in demand, which was fantastic. My workshops were selling out all over. I would teach in small boutique stores. So it was a really great community and a great way to connect with small businesses, but it was just creating too much demand physically and on my time. And it was taking me away from my goal of creating just 100% digital business. So I decided to take a leap and teach my first online class. I had no idea what I was doing, but with the help of YouTube, Googling, and some Skillshare classes, I figured out how I could produce my own online class. And Skillshare was a platform that I learned a lot of my creative skills from. And it was a platform I loved being a student on. So I thought, what a great way to give back to the community and to become a teacher on Skillshare. So that was my first introduction to online classes and being an online instructor.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, Skillshare is a very popular platform, and definitely in the design world, it's super popular. So, what was that first course that you published?
So it was an intro to modern calligraphy using a dip pen and ink. It was a saturated industry, I would say for sure, and a saturated topic on Skillshare. However, Skillshare enjoyed my class and they decided to feature it. So I was able to have some success right away. What I didn't do, and this is something in marketing that, we all have our regrets, Jeremy. I didn't jump on the Instagram bandwagon as well as I should have. Being a creative, I've got a bit of a creative monkey brain. So I'm always changing focuses and I didn't necessarily do things the way I should have. So while I was on Skillshare for about 5 years, I didn't grow a following. I didn't network on the platform. And that's something that I recommend anyone does if they are looking to be a teacher on Skillshare, because the more followers you have and the more impact you can offer on the platform, you get rewarded.
Yeah, definitely. It's very important. I always tell people to start creating those audiences and students offside, outside of these platforms, so that you can always talk to them later on. So you produce your course, and it
Mhm.
has some really good success. And then I know on Skillshare, like me personally, because I've been on the platform myself, is that I started producing more courses right away.
Yes.
Is that
Mhm.
the strategy that you did, or did you just focus on the one course?
Yeah, so I'm all about creating passive and active income streams and making sure that I have a nice, diverse range of revenue. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to continue to create these small classes for Skillshare and, maybe earn a few thousand extra a month with these classes? Like I said, I enjoy the platform. I think Skillshare is great as a student, and I was learning how to use it as a teacher. So then the frustrating experiences started to happen. If you don't have a big following, or if your course doesn't have X amount of students right from launch, your course doesn't trend and it gets hidden. And again, because I'm in an industry that's very saturated, or a topic that's very saturated, finding that momentum within the platform was a little bit tough. And then just the way that Skillshare pays the teachers based on how many minutes watched your courses have, or the even the season of the year. I started to have mixed emotions about being a teacher on the platform. So to this day, I probably have about 7 or 9 even classes on the platform, and it's something that has been great for adding a little bit of an extra revenue stream. But I wouldn't recommend solely relying on it as a single income stream. So what I decided to do was take charge of the classes that I was creating and decided to host on my own platform.
Okay. Um, so yeah, I've been there with Skillshare, and it seems like in the beginning it was easier to get those classes to trend, and then they must have made a change at some point, because I really struggled
How
getting
long
my.
have you been teaching on the platform, Jeremy?
I've been doing online courses for about 6 years. So Skillshare, I probably started about 4 to 5 years ago, I would say.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
sure you've seen it change big time since then.
yeah, and you used to be able to put up a course and have a really good chance of getting it up there at the top. And I'm also in the design industry, which is, like you said, very
Mhm.
saturated, and over time it does become very difficult. So you decided to um, put your course on your own platform. Did you try any of the other platforms? Did you try like Udemy or Linda, Pluralsight, any of those other ones?
So I am on Udemy as well, and so I've taken a course on Udemy, just one course, and that was a few years ago, and enjoyed the content and thought I got good value. So someone else in our Skillshare group has really great success with Udemy, so I thought, why not give it a try? Again, you're sort of at the mercy of how they run their courses and businesses. So
Right.
I feel like it's a completely different group of students on Udemy, and my classes do well when they run an extreme discount. So I
Hmm.
kind of think of it as the 9.99 course,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
you're giving a lot of value. And again, looking at the revenue, it's not something that you could live off of unless you're focusing 100%, had a really big following, and didn't have, any other means of making an income. If that was, I could see the potential there. But
Right.
again, it didn't sit right. I knew that the information that I was delivering was really good quality, and that I was offering a lot of content. And I knew that the potential to earn income would be better if I self-hosted, and then I could nurture my community of students better as well. I just found it was more personal. So although I do have classes on Udemy, I would suggest personally I prefer Skillshare over Udemy for the type of students that Skillshare attracts. So I'm
Gotcha.
not a
Okay.
huge fan of Udemy. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Udemy. I love you.
No, it's good to know, it's good to talk about the different platforms, and because they all have their pros and cons, right? Some are better at some things
Absolutely.
than others. So So you've realized that, being on these platforms might not be the most beneficial for you based on, the pricing structure, how much control you have. And so you decide to host on your own platform. Uh,
Yes.
how did that process look? Where did you host your course, and what was it like getting your course or courses set up on your own platform?
Yeah, so I did some research. I started listening to podcasts that would give me information I needed in terms of what self hosting platforms should I be looking at and what the benefits and features were. So, with some research, I started off with, I think, Teachable and Thinkific. I just did their free trials and looked at their backend. So, what it was like to actually upload my content, how to structure my courses, what it looked like from the user's perspective or the student's perspective, and decided to go with Thinkific. And I think two reasons was the interface at the time was simple enough for me to use. So, I don't have a technology background.
Mhm.
I've been self-taught pretty much my entire business. So I feel like I'm savvy when it comes to software programs and using things like I started with WordPress and could do a bit of coding. So I do have a little bit of knowledge, but I'm still challenged in a lot of ways. And Thinkific just offered a more simple system. And I like that they're Canadians. They're based out of Vancouver. So I thought, yeah, we'll support the Canadians. And they're pretty innovative in terms of integrations that they're offering and widgets and things like that. So initially, I uploaded the courses that I originally created for Skillshare to learn a little bit more about how I needed to deliver my content on a self hosted site and what it meant from a marketing perspective. The benefit of being on Skillshare and even Udemy is you have an active audience that you can tap into. When you're self hosting, you need to then work on your SEO and driving traffic and getting the students and your ideal customer to come to your site. So, yeah, did I answer that?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, no, that sounds good. So you went with Thinkific, you got your courses up there. So let's
Mhm.
talk about what you just said, because that is the biggest, driver of someone going to a third-party marketplace like Udemy or Skillshare versus self-hosting is the
Mhm.
benefit of, there's already students, there's already a platform. You
Mhm.
can just post your course up, and then people are going to flood to your course and you're going to make $1 million, which we know is not true. So let's talk about the marketing strategies when you're on your own platform, because I know this is going to be a big question for people is once you get your course up there, what are you doing to get people to that course?
Sure. So, my marketing strategy from when I started self hosting online classes to today, in fact, has changed quite a bit. I've taken again online classes to help me with my own online courses and be able to deliver them and market them. And I'm finding that just in today's day, where social media can be a little bit more challenging, again, if you don't have a big following and with the algorithms. So I have a variety of ways that I market now. So, of course, I've built up my own email list. That's huge, where I'm offering, I kind of have a behind the scenes, a private creative library. It was mostly focused on lettering and calligraphy, but in that creative library, I have some practice sheets, some iPhone wall art that people can download and save to their phones, and just direct access to any YouTube video tutorials. So, any free tools that I can offer to my subscribers as a way to help them continue to learn dip pen calligraphy or even watercolor is in that creative library. But what I've also done is I've used my Thinkific site to create some free challenges. So I have a 5 day calligraphy challenge that people can take that's free. And I also have a list of just watercolor tutorials I created for YouTube. But the bonus that they get is it's all in one free course hosted again on Thinkific. And there's a free downloadable PDF that gives them tips on how to get started with watercolor. So I use those that free content as lead magnets, and I share the lead magnets on like Instagram, so all of my social media sites. But I'm finding what's working best for me right now is Pinterest.
Hmm.
So Pinterest works like a Google search. It's more visual, which suits my industry
Mhm.
and what I teach. And I have had a lot of success using Pinterest over this last year.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I want to get into the Pinterest topic because that would be beneficial for people out there who haven't used it before. But I want to ask you one quick question going back to your free resources. So you mentioned that you have a 5-day challenge and that's
Hmm.
inside of your Thinkific course.
Hmm.
How is that set up? Is it just someone enrolls and they get all 5 videos, or are you dripping that content out? What does that 5-day challenge look like?
So they can sign up for free, and the content is dripped. So again, it's something that I created maybe 3 years ago. That was my trial piece before I actually produced my first course. So it's dripped out over 5 days, and every day they get access to a video. So it's basic instruction, and they get a tracing sheet where they can trace the basic shapes that I'm teaching for lettering or dip pen calligraphy, whatever tool they choose. And as they go through the 5 days, I'm giving them advice, pointers, and a taste for just my teaching style. It allows them to get to know me because I do head on video as well as hands on demo. So they understand my teaching style. It gives them confidence in who I am with my instruction level and skill level as well. And then I introduce them at the end of the 5 day challenge to take a class with me. And I give them a little discount as an incentive, and hopefully convert them into a student.
Awesome. That's a brilliant strategy. Because the value that you're giving for free I'm sure you just get some diehard fans when they go through that.
Yeah, and it's so awesome when they actually share their challenge practice sheets with me, or
Mhm.
that's the start of their own, whether it's a side hustle or a hobby. I feel like that's what fills me up as an instructor
Mhm.
because I know what this business has created for me in terms of freedom and opportunity. That if I can share that and be the jumping off point for my students, it just makes me want to create more.
Yes, definitely. That's very motivational, to see those assignments getting turned in, and you know that you're actually helping someone on the other side of that screen.
Of
You
course.
Some of these courses we put out there, and you just sit back and pray and hope that it's helping someone out there. But when you have students interacting, turning in assignments, that's very motivational as the instructor.
Especially building an online business because we don't get that same feedback. So when I taught in person workshops, you can see the transformation over the 2 hours that we spend together. So when you're teaching online, I always, whenever I'm sending out an email or I'm, in a video, especially on YouTube or within the classes, I'm always inviting my students to hit reply and to let me know how they're doing and share their work with me. Because again, that feedback, it just reinforces what you're teaching and again inspires me to teach more. So,
Hello, course creators. Are you struggling with marketing and selling your online course? If so, then head over to our free community where successful course creators are ready to help you create, market, and sell your expertise. Go to onlinecourseigniter.com/community now to join. That's onlinecourseigniter.com/community. So you're collecting emails, you got a bunch of free resources, free courses. Obviously, you've built this up over time to all these, different lead magnets and freebies that you have. And you're getting people into your system, into your email series and what have you. And so let's talk about how we're getting the actual traffic into that system. So you mentioned Instagram and you mentioned Pinterest. I would definitely want to
mhm.
get to Pinterest. Let's start with Instagram because you said that one first. So is there anything that is working for you on Instagram particularly?
I wouldn't say there is one thing specifically. When I look at my analytics, I would say Instagram, Facebook probably bring in about 10% of my traffic. So it
Okay.
is quite a bit lower. But what I'm finding on Instagram is being able to DM with potential students. So
Hmm.
answering their questions, being able to sort of pre qualify what they're looking for and They can almost interview me in terms of what I am able to offer. I feel like Instagram specifically allows me to have that conversation one on one with students. And then I can then direct them to whichever course would best suit them. Because I do offer a few variety of dip pen calligraphy as well as brush lettering and even watercolor lettering.
Right.
Um, so I feel like Instagram is a tool where people can get to know me one on one and we can have one on one conversations.
Okay, cool. And
Yeah.
you mentioned Facebook. So do you when you set up your courses or maybe the free workshop, do you have a community or a Facebook group that you're nurturing too?
So I just started building a group on Facebook and looking at how to create some just community interaction and allow students to learn together and share together. So have it be a private space where they can feel like they can ask questions and as beginners be able to share their work without um, feeling like they can't level up or they can't compete with someone who may be a bit more advanced.
Mhm.
However, what I love about Thinkific is they have a community aspect as well to their platform. So I'm just looking at what is working better in terms of having people be in a private space where they can share and we can have challenges. I show up live. So I'm playing around with both right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
I always think that having the community is such a valuable asset to have with any type of course, because then you can get that direct feedback. Again,
Mhm.
you can have people turn in assignments and motivate each other. So I always
Mhm.
like to hear when people are using the community aspect. So let's dive into Pinterest because you said that was the one that seems to be working the best for you. So what is your Pinterest strategy?
So, Pinterest is a really interesting search engine. So, I think some people view it as being a social media platform, and it really isn't. Pinterest is more of a reference tool. So, when I started using Pinterest for my business, I started using it strategically. So, I made sure that my profile was just filled with keywords. So, anything that I wanted to attract. So, again, watercolor, calligraphy, lettering. I made sure that the boards that I was pinning to had a strong sense of style. So I'm all about using art in your home to really liven up your space and have inspirational sayings around you and things like that. So I made sure that my boards spoke to that. So I have a board that has inspiring and funny quotes because I have a bit of a sassy personality. So my lettering tends to have a little bit of sass to it. I made sure that I featured things like my living room or home decor, or I have a board that talks about how to hang art. So it was very on brand for what Life I Design is all about, but it would draw in a nice variety of customers through just design and aesthetics. And then my pins were also very strategic. So I use Canva for mostly for my thumbnails for my blogs, and my blog is where I tend to pin from so that I can offer a little bit of content. So whether it's a new tutorial or a bit of creative advice. So I made sure that my pins also were very on brand with my color scheme, my personal messaging, as well as what I was promoting. And then Pinterest started introducing the ability to upload video, which for me was very exciting because a lot of what I share is hands on and video based.
Mhm.
So I feel it's finding a balance of creating pins that are very shareable and inspiring, but then adding the educational element to them where you're drawing them to your site. And then once a pin starts to have a bit of traction, so I have pins that have 10,000 views, and it's a very short, almost a time lapse video of maybe a watercolor piece that I did. And once that happens, it just seems to draw new followers. So I get daily, I probably have maybe a dozen to 20 new followers a day on Pinterest. And then that traffic then translates to people visiting my site.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the videos that you're creating for Pinterest. How are you making those? Is this just How do you make the videos that you're talking about?
So I use my phone primarily, and the videos mostly are portrait style, and I upload them from my phone. So, really simply, actually, and create a pin on Pinterest. And you can put in your keywords, description, choose what boards you want to pin it to, and then I can direct people to my website.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm glad you said very simply because I think that when people hear about creating videos on Pinterest, you think of do you need a studio, lighting, and all these things. So you're just nice and simple. You have your phone, you're doing your artwork, you upload it as a pin, and then when people click on that, it takes them to your website. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, when it comes to video recording, I mean, I can share some hacks if you want, because I
Yeah,
feel like that's
definitely.
a big, yeah. So, what I like to do is think about my platform. So, because I create so much content for a variety of platforms, each platform I find has their own style or way to film video. So when I film a video that's portrait, I use my phone. I have an app called Film that I like to just brighten it a little bit, maybe even create some clips of it. And I can use that same video on IGTV. So IGTV on Instagram is really
Mhm.
huge for me. And that same video then can go on Pinterest. As well, I can upload that video on Facebook. So I'm creating one piece of content that I can then use on three different platforms.
Okay. Very cool. And because it's in that portrait size, it's going to work on all of those. You don't have to worry about formatting or anything like that.
Exactly. YouTube is a little different. When I shoot videos for YouTube, it's in the landscape style, so horizontal mode.
Hmm.
And that's what I use then to host on my blog post. So I'll create a new blog post with a new tutorial that I create on YouTube. So I feel like just being efficient with the content that you're creating and being able to use it in multiple ways has been a lifesaver for me.
Okay, yeah, I love the repurposing aspect of doing online business because I always try to find the quickest routes, and if you can repurpose content, that's definitely a time saver. So,
Mhm.
did you say when you do these videos, is each video just per one blog post, or do you ever send like say a video to your workshop or a free lead magnet or anything like that?
I don't. So what I do is I try to create new content. Again, just keeping up with what's happening in our industry. There's a lot of free video content, tutorials, how to. So I like to create the new content for social media, and then again try to repurpose it on my own website by driving traffic from Pinterest. So I use the video to drive traffic to my site, which is I'm having a lot of success with, and also creating that new content on YouTube, which I then host on Life I Design's blog.
Okay,
Does
very
that make
cool.
sense?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Um, and then one other question I had about Pinterest, and you can answer this because you're in the design area. When someone goes to Pinterest and you open it up and you see all these images, all these pins, it can be overwhelming. Do you have any tips or tricks or ideas of how to get your pin to stand out from other pins? Is there anything special you're doing to make sure that people are clicking on your pin versus someone else's?
Yes, 100%. So I'm a big advocate for learning how to take strong photography. So using your iPhone or your phone, depending on whatever type you have, learning how to use that phone well to take strong images that are bright and clear, and using programs like I love Snapseed to edit my photos.
Hmm.
I think that is a game changer. But then using programs like Canva, where if you don't have a graphic design background, Canva has some pretty amazing templates that are just drag and drop. You literally choose the style of template that you want, bring in your images. They do have stock photography, but again, I love photography. So I like to be able to style my own photos, but then use strong copy. So, what is it that you're sharing? Like, what do you want to inspire people with? What action do you want them to take? So when you're creating pins on Pinterest, in order for them to be, I believe, successful, is strong imagery. that speaks to your audience. So what is it that you want them to how do you want to grab their attention? What do you want the image to say to them? And then what action do you want them to take? So, if I am creating a Canva image that I'm going to use on Pinterest to drive traffic to my site, I'm going to catch them with the image and the headline. So if it's 5 things that you need to know about being creative, that's in my pin. That is, strong text on a strong image.
Okay. So the copy to you is just as important as the image itself.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, very good. Cool. So that sounds great. I think that gives everyone out there some good ideas on Pinterest and some different traffic strategies. Let's talk about the courses on your site. Do you have just one course that you're focusing on, or is it multiple courses? Do you do a membership? What does the actual courses on your site look like?
Well, my strategy for my own courses on my own site has changed quite a bit. And it's really interesting, again, the evolution. Once you start to play around with what type of courses you create and how your audience reacts to them, it allows you, I think, to hone in on what's working. So originally, I had small workshop style courses that were evergreen. So they're available on my site. You can sign up anytime. I would run maybe twice a year, like a big sale on them, and they were doing okay. I didn't have the success that I had planned to have, Jeremy, which I feel like is good because you learn about what doesn't work and then you pivot, right? So, what I decided to do was create more of an experience where I can offer my students a bigger transformation. And I love watercolor, and I feel like with watercolor, I can marry both lettering and painting.
Hmm.
And it's a medium that I feel is up and coming. So it's becoming quite popular. Although it's a traditional medium, I feel like my take on it is very modern. So what I decided to do was last year I created a big course. So it's 7 modules with bonus sections, and it takes my students through a whole transformation where they can be introduced to watercolor painting. I have project style lessons that I go through, and that one is a course that I launch 3 times a year. So it's not evergreen. It is a bigger commitment in terms of time and investment by the students. And I've been able to add so much value and content to that class that it now is something that I am focusing on growing more, and I'm offering again launch style. So I open it up every 3 months or so to a new group of students.
Okay, and you just keep doing live launches so that you can just be more for the student there. Is that the reason, or is there another reason why you haven't turned it into an evergreen product?
Yes. So I like the idea of welcoming in new students where I can offer them support and the ability to even interact with me. So we were talking about Facebook groups and community and the ability to create community on Thinkific. And I feel like being able to show up live, whether I'm doing a live demonstration within the course or as a bonus, being able to offer a live experience for my students online is huge.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, you're getting that direct feedback and direct relationship with that student.
Yeah, I
So,
can I can answer questions, so I can give each student personal advice and tips and attention, and I feel like that's unbeatable in an evergreen course system.
right, because it's kind of like you have a little bit of a coaching aspect to your course inside of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And so you launched that every 3 months, you said. And what does that launch strategy look like? Do you have some type of funnel set up to help do the launch, or is it just sending out an email to your email list? Hey, the course is about to open up. What does that launch strategy look like?
Yeah, so I find with every time I launch, I do a bit of a debrief and look at what worked and what didn't. So the first time I launched, I really didn't have a strong marketing strategy for launch. It was a lot of using social media, using lives and video, talking about the course, and using my email list. I did run, I think I ran a short Facebook ad, which was just boosting my posts about the course. So I had a loose plan. I think I was just overwhelmed with actually creating the course and how big it became. And I didn't give myself enough time of planning out a nice, roadmap or a launch runway. So this course is launched, I'd say 3 times now in total, and I'm just getting ready to relaunch it. And right now, the strategy is using a live workshop. So again, I feel like in order for someone to invest in a bigger course with me, I want them to get to know who I am as an instructor, what they can expect to learn, and my teaching style. And I want to empower them to let them know that they can do this. So when you speak to artists, a lot of times artists feel like they're not artistic enough to take on a new medium or a new skill. And especially if you're a beginner, I want you to feel empowered and confident that you can learn what I'm teaching you and that you can be artistic without even necessarily feeling that you are. So with this upcoming launch, I have a live, I guess, webinar, but it's a live workshop that people will be able to sign into, and it'll be free. And pushing that out to social media as well as my email list. And we'll be running some Facebook ads as well as Pinterest. My Pinterest ads, the last time I ran them, did really well. So I'll continue to use Pinterest strategically that way for launch.
Oh, awesome. We're going to have to get you back on the podcast and hear your Pinterest ad strategy.
Yeah, I would love to. We have a very strong launch plan for this time around. So yeah, I would love to.
Okay, thanks, Nikki. So I just have one more question that I wanted to ask you before we wrap it up. Someone who's listening to this podcast and hearing about all the different strategies, Instagram and Pinterest and Facebook having a community, deciding on what platform to choose, that can be very overwhelming for the person just starting out who hasn't created an online course, or maybe they just created one. Is there one piece of advice that you could give to the beginner thinking back to when you started that would have helped you out?
Sure. I think making it as simple as possible. So, from a technology standpoint, I use my telephone to record all of my classes and videos. So, you don't need to go out and buy expensive cameras or anything like that necessarily. If you have a good quality phone that has a good quality camera on it, I would use that. I use iMovie to edit all of my classes. I actually use my Apple AirPods. So I do have a snowball mic that I like to use as well to make sure my audio is clear. So creating good quality video and audio, I think, is really important. And then think of the most simplest way that you can host your content. So for some people, that might even be just create a private Facebook group, host some videos, like record your videos and have them uploaded to Facebook where people can enjoy them or learn from them, even using a live format. But if you're looking at a course that you can create for your own site, I would look at sites like Thinkific and Teachable, where you can create the course really easily, upload it, and have it sit on your own website. So, really just think about what it is you want to share. If you want to create a video style course, because I know there's some courses out there that are PDF based or even where there is presentation style and voiceover. Think about what type of content and what type of experience you want to share for your student. And then how can you just simply offer that content so that you can start having students consume your class and get feedback from them, which I think is really important too when you're just starting out.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. It's start simple and just get it out there. That's so many people get
Yeah.
hung up in the technical and making decisions. So that's a great piece of advice. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I appreciate your time. I know the audience is going to love this episode. So if someone wanted to find out more about you and what you're doing online, where can they go?
Yes. So on social media, I'm at Lifi Design pretty much everywhere. And my website is lifidesign.com.
Nice and simple. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I just hope you have continued success in the future.
Thank you, Jeremy. I really enjoyed this. And thanks so much for having me on the podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Nicki. You can find out more about her and her business by visiting lifeidesign.com, or you can get the show notes of this episode along with links and resources by visiting onlinecourseigniter.com/13. Come back next week for an all-new episode. Thank you for tuning in to the Online Course Igniter podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening so that you don't miss an episode. If you would like to learn more marketing strategies and how to sell your online course, then also check out our free community where we share tips, tricks, and tutorials at onlinecourseigniter.com/community.